walkthrough of the new Blackboard course site for WRIT100 based on the revamp material. The video will begin by showing you how to import a course package and then set up your Blackboard course site. Then it will give you a quick tour of what's in the new Blackboard course site, and then a brief tutorial on how to edit and adapt some of that material for your own teaching. You can use the chapters at the bottom of the video to skip along to whatever sections are most important to you, or you can watch the whole thing, or you can watch none of it at all, whatever you want. So the first thing you're going to need is a Blackboard course site that you're working out of. This might be the course site that you're assigned to teach in, or you can request a DevU site. Here I have a DevU site. Ignore the course code. This is just an old DevU site that I'm working with for demonstration purposes. The next thing you're going to need is the course package, which you'll receive through an email or a Teams link. And once you have those two things, you're ready to import. And I've already downloaded the course package. And so I'll select these three dots here. And we'll go import content, import course content, find the file, and we will let Blackboard do its thing. Sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow. Today it seems to be fast. Here we go. Maybe I spoke too soon. And we will notice that nothing has really changed. Don't panic. You have a couple options here. The first thing to do is just wait and be patient, but that doesn't come naturally to me, so I'm going to leave and come back. I'll find the site that I was working in, which is this one here. And I can see that it's still importing course content, one, because it says it is, and two, because it's not all here. And so again, I could just wait, or I could leave. Once again, sometimes you just have to knock on the door a couple times. And there we go. We know it's imported because one, we get this little note here that says it was imported successfully, and two, we can see all the parts of the Blackboard course site, which include a faculty resources folder, a getting started module, 5 learning modules, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the module quizzes. So now I know it's all being imported successfully. I'll show you how to edit some of this material in a minute, but just initially, I want to talk about how you might set up this course once you've imported the package. The first thing you'll notice are the visibility settings. The faculty resources should remain hidden from students because this contains resources that aren't super secret but might be confusing for students if they were to read them. Again, I'll show you all this in a minute. There's a getting started folder that might remain hidden from students if you choose to use it. But all of the modules will be visible to students right away. And so if you don't want them seeing the modules, you will have to go in and edit their visibility settings to hide them from students until you're ready to show them to your students. And then there's also the quizzes that should remain hidden from students until you're ready to deploy them if you want to use them. So unlike a course copy where the course content was automatically hidden from students, when we do an import course package, it retains the visibility settings. And so these will remain visible until you hide them. So take a quick look at the visibility settings and make sure they're what you want and adjust accordingly. The other thing you might want to do in setting up is to include a banner image here. We have provided you with a sample banner image. You can use whatever you want, but you can also use this one. I'm not sure why it's saying the accessibility score is low here. It's not saying that in the other version of this course site, but I'm also not too worried about it because this is purely decorative, which I'll show you in a minute. So you can download this banner image by selecting those three dots, download original file. That's what it looks like there. It gets downloaded, and then I select the little pencil or pen icon up here and the image icon here, and I will drag my banner image into the box here, and there you can see it, made by Jessica, looking very good. What's nice about this is it's formatted for Blackboard, so it doesn't have all that kind of wonky formatting that you sometimes get if you try to make your own. And then you click save. And you'll notice here that we're leaving mark the image as decorative, and that's because it doesn't contain any critical information for the course. The course code and title are in the actual website for the student. This is purely decorative. And so we'll save that. And there we go. Now we have a course banner. And so for the most part now, your Blackboard course site is set up. And so now I'll give you kind of a quick tour of what the course site contains. So the first thing you'll see is a faculty resources folder. In that folder, you'll find instructors' notes. And again, this should remain hidden from students because it contains information for instructors, not because it's super secret, but some notes on how to use the Blackboard course site, as well as information on how to adapt the material for different modalities. You'll see this video. You'll see some sample critical paths that might be useful for setting up the course and adapting for the revamp. You'll see the banner image, which we just looked at, as well as a variety of links on how to use Blackboard and edit the material, and then some other revamp material and the English department student success slides. The next thing you'll see is the Getting Started module. Again, this module is currently hidden from students, but if you're using it and once you edit it, you can make it visible to them. There's a welcome message template which you can use or not use or edit for your own purposes. A link to the course outline, which will need to be updated in the fall once the new course outline is available, and then the student resource page, which contains a variety of links to various student resources throughout the college. And then you'll see the 5 modules. I'm not going to go through all of the modules in detail, but I will kind of give you a quick tour of one of the modules so that you get an idea of what's in them. The first thing you'll notice is that it's visible to students, but also it says here students must progress through the module in order. What this means is I'll turn on student preview mode so that you can see that. Students are unable to access content in the course until they've done the previous sections of the module. Students often miss this little prompt here that says they must complete all previous items to access this content, so it's worth reminding them in an announcement or in class. This is also particularly important if you embed an assignment or an assessment within the module structure, because a student won't be able to access that assessment until they've done the actual module. What I like about this is that it allows students to track their progress. So I'll give you a brief tour of the module and then I'll show you what it looks like on the student end. So every module begins with a learning objectives and module introduction, as well as course learning outcomes. And throughout the module, we've tried to embed videos, provide links, and that kind of stuff. And then each module also provides an introduction to the authors of the module. And again, if this is something that you don't want in the modules, that's okay. Just keep in mind if you were to delete it or edit it, sometimes the authors of the modules reference themselves in the modules. And so anytime you make changes, just make sure that those changes make sense based on what else is in the modules. And then the modules begin with big questions. These are kind of connect to the learning outcomes, but they're kind of more student-centered questions that the module will ask. We try to use similar design elements so that you'll see these kind of blue blocks around the big questions section for every module. And then each section begins with kind of a title in green here, so hopefully it signals to students that they're kind of progressing through the module. We've tried to embed images and block the text so that it kind of is a bit more dynamic. And every once in a while, you'll see knowledge checks embedded within the modules. These are formative assessments, so they're not worth any marks, but they do allow you to kind of track whether or not students are understanding the material, whether they're actually using the material. It allows students to check whether they're understanding it and all of that kind of fun stuff. And it's based on the content of that page, and it's normally basic kind of comprehension, and so students can kind of try to answer the question, and they can see whether they got it right, and then they can try again. And you will get information and data on how many students are trying it and how many are getting it right or wrong. And again, students don't have to do these. You don't have to use them. You can change them. You can delete them. You can add your own. And then you'll also notice reflect and apply activities throughout the modules as well. These are highlighted in these kind of yellow light bulbs. These are little kind of activities that ask students to think about and or do something in relation to the content of that part of the module. Again, you can use these, you can adapt them into larger class activities if you want, even into assessments, or just not use them at all. They can just sit there as things for students to think about or potentially do in relation to that material. And again, you'll notice that we try to kind of embed these throughout the modules, not always just right at the end. It kind of depends on the content of the module. Where possible, we've included video and other multimedia to help kind of make it a bit more dynamic. Again, if you have your own video, you can go in here and change these, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. And this is generally what the modules look like. A variety of kind of content, information, videos, activities, and that kind of stuff. And you can see here with the progress in order, it shows students what they've done, where they left off, and what's remaining. And so it allows them to kind of track their progress. But again, the only thing to keep in mind is that sometimes students miss this little part here, and that they might need to be reminded that if they want to access other parts of the module, including assessments that are in the module, then they need to complete the actual module. And all the modules have that basic layout with the three kind of introductory parts, then the content, which ranges from kind of 4 to 6 sections depending on the module, and then finally a kind of reflection, final thoughts piece. I'll show you how to change that setting in a moment. The other thing you'll notice at the end of every module is a faculty folder. Again, this should remain hidden from students because it contains sample assessments and activities. So it just might be confusing for them if they were to get access to it. They think they have to complete all these assignments. These aren't deployed as actual assignments. They're just in here as documents. So if you wanted to use it as an assignment, you would obviously have to create it as an assignment in Blackboard. But there's a variety of potential activities and assessments related to that particular module, as well as EDIB related activities created by the EDIB group. And every module has a folder like that, and that folder contains module-specific assessments, activities, and other things that you can be using to build out your class and your teaching, whether it's in person or online, or a bit of both. And then finally, you'll see down here a folder of module quizzes. There's a note here on how to potentially use these quizzes, but there's one quiz per module, and each quiz is set to be worth 1 mark and has no due date. The quizzes can assess basic kind of comprehension of the module material, so they could be a good way to check student understanding. You could keep these separate as as in an assessment folder, for example, or you could drag it into the actual module. So for example, if we wanted to use the module 5 quiz, we would drag it. We would find module 5 and we would embed it into module 5. So assuming it goes at the end, but you could really put it anywhere. We'll put it right at the end here. And now the module becomes part of the actual process of the module, or the quiz becomes part of the actual process that students would go through. So, and again, you could put it right in the middle here. And so there would be a quiz kind of in the middle of the module. Students would do the quiz and then they would continue on in the module. Again, though, just one reminder, you would have to change the visibility settings, and for students to access that quiz, they would have to complete the previous steps of the module. I'll show you what that looks like now. So we go to module 5 where I embedded that quiz. You can see that the module 5 quiz isn't available. And so by clicking on it, I can't access that quiz. I wonder though if I could get to it through Gradebook. Yeah, it doesn't look like, yeah, so students still can't access it through Gradebook. They would still have to complete the previous sections of the module in order to access that quiz. So it can create some obstacles for students, but it also ensures that they're doing the actual modules before they do the quiz. Now, they could just be clicking through the modules without reading them, but there's only so much we can do. Okay, so now let's take a second to talk about how you might adapt and edit these materials. This is going to be a very quick kind of tutorial on how to do that. There's obviously a lot of information here and it can get quite technical, but just to kind of give you a sense of how you might adapt the material. So the first thing you can do is totally rearrange the material. You can, if for example you think module 2 should happen before module 1, you can just simply drag and drop that module there, and then obviously you would have to edit the settings of the module so that this reads module 1 instead of module 2, and this reads module 2, and then you could edit the description so that you change the weeks that the module occurs in. So for example, if you want module 2 to last longer, then you would change the weeks of the module by just editing the description. So again, this is totally up to you how you want the modules to progress. The other thing you can change is that forced sequence feature. So by turning that off, now it doesn't force students to progress through the module in sequence. They can access all parts of the module in whatever order they want. Just note that when you do that, it does then automatically hide all of the content from students. So then you would have to go in and make it visible when you want them to be able to see it. So you can turn that off, and now students can access all parts of the module once it's made visible. The other thing you might want to do is add your own modules or sections. So for example, if you think there's kind of an entire thing missing or you want to include, you can add modules. So you can create a module here, or you can simply add in folders, documents, links to other things, or anything else that you want to add between the modules. Or if you have modules from previous iterations of WRIT that you've taught that you want to bring over, then you would copy that module over and put it into this format here, and then it becomes part of those Blackboard course site. Once you're in the modules, you can edit them as well. So you can rearrange the order of these pieces. So again, you can kind of drag and drop it, and so now multiple voices comes before the big questions. Again, just be cautious that the changes do make sense. Sometimes there are kind of references to sequence and previous sections of the module within the modules, so that could be confusing. I don't think there's too much of that, but it would be something to keep in mind. And then you could also add sections within the modules as well. So if you think there needs to be something else in module 1 here, or something that you'd like to include, you can find where you'd like to include it. Select that button, create, and then you could add a document, which is where you would add kind of a content area. You could add a folder, a link. You could include an assessment, a discussion board, anything like that that you want to include. It would then become part of that module. And then if you want to edit the actual content within a section of the module, you can do that as well. And so for example, I don't know, let's just choose this one. If there's content in this module that you want to change or add to, then you click Edit Content. And what we've tried to do is design this content in blocks so that it's not just one large block of text, and so that you can kind of choose where to edit and where to add. If it's created as one single block, then it becomes difficult to do that. And so, for example, if you wanted to add a section here that included a write-up about something, you would add a content area, you can include a knowledge check, you could upload some kind of file, you could add your own videos. So if you wanted to insert content here, you can embed a video or include a YouTube video if you have one that you like, that you think fits well there. And so you could go through the module and add whatever content you want. I'm not going to get into kind of how to play around with the blocks, but it's pretty simple. You can kind of drag the blocks over, and then you can add a new content area. So let's say we wanted to add an image now. I'm going to do a image of, I don't know, a puppy. And then we've got a puppy image. And we would make it fit that block that we want to drag it into. And so now we've got a puppy image that is embedded as kind of part of that module. And you could do that with a video, you could do that with text content, really whatever you want to do. And again, you can delete entire sections. So if you kind of don't like, this part of the module or it doesn't fit what you're teaching, then you just simply click the trash can and it will delete that. Be cautious though, when you delete things, it's hard to kind of, if you save it, you're not going to get that back. So you can undo deletes, but Blackboard's not particularly forgiving in that way. And so you can go through and edit all this content. You can change the reflect and apply. You can add instructions, whatever it is you want to do, you can add. All right, I think that about covers it. Thanks for watching. We hope you find the revamped material useful and easily adaptable for your own purposes. Good luck.